Hello and welcome to the video submission for my work placement poster 2024. I did my work placement with the ESB as an undergraduate intern in generation and trading. Just to give a quick overview of the ESB is a semi-state company 95% owned by the Irish government. I'll just give an overview of the different business units at the ESB. Generation and trading, the one I worked for, is the business unit of the ESB group. They manage the operation and maintenance of the ESB assets. Most assets are generally built by manufacturers such as Vestas and Siemens Gamesa. This is true for wind farms and it's not true for things like solar and hydro. ESB Networks is the unit responsible for the construction and maintenance of the electricity transmission system. EirGrid are the transmission system operator. This was originally done by the ESB, however, an EU directive in 2001 forced a split between the ESB and EirGrid. This was then finalised in 2006. Engineering and major projects are responsible for any large-scale projects undertaken by the ESB, such as solar arrays and battery energy storage systems. Customer solutions directly interact with customers, for example, electric vehicles, smart meters, and home electricity services. Just to give an overview of my team, I was on the wind asset management team. We worked to manage wind assets such as turbines and everything found on a wind farm sustainably and in a financially viable manner. The ESB has an onshore wind fleet of 28 wind farms, a total of 887 megawatts of power. Some of these are entirely owned by the ESB and some are joint ventures with companies such as Bord na Móna and Coillte. I'll move over to the right hand side now just to give an overview of a couple of my personal projects. The Eoin wind farm shadow flicker, which is probably the biggest project I had. Shadow flicker occurs when the blade of a wind turbine rotates in front of the sun, causing the sunbeam shining through house windows to flick. I was tasked with logging these occurrences for each turbine of the Eoin wind farm and each house affected. End of life analysis. Much of the ESB's onshore wind fleet is coming to its end of life in 2032, meaning that the wind turbines are about to expire. It is up to my team to determine the worth of extending the life of these wind farms. I was put on this project. I found capital expenditure and operational expenditure costs for the turbines and other assets. I then developed a projected production model to predict the amount of energy produced by these wind farms from 2032 to 2040 and use this to determine the revenue generated if the ESB was to decide to extend the lifespan of the wind farms. This information then will be presented to my line manager, who presented to his manager, and then the decision will be made. Back over to left hand. Well, now I'll go for personal career development. It's blocked off by the camera, but I now have a newfound interest in the renewable energy industry, particularly wave energy. In the ESB, this is the Saoirse project done alongside the Simply Blue group. Wave energy is what it sounds like. It's harnessing the energy of ocean waves. It's a new technology, and the Saoirse project is like a research project by the ESB. There isn't much information about it, but I think if the technology becomes viable in Ireland, it will be very successful. ESB offer a grad program, which will be a 2.5-year program. I will do 2 rotations, and yeah, I think it'd be interesting to get another idea of how the ESB work. And I could also, another option for me would be to go engineering abroad and get better practical experience than what the ESB would offer, and come back to the ESB and say, and with all the experience and get like a managerial or business role. Back over to the left hand side, I'll just talk about the net zero 2040 derivatives or targets. The European Commission has set a target of making the European Union climate neutral by 2050. The ESB will be expected to contribute to the meeting of these demands on behalf of Ireland. To do this, the ESB has set a target of reaching net zero emissions by the year 2040. The strategy for this is called Driven to Make a Difference, Net Zero by 2040. The outline for the strategy can be found in ESB Net Zero Pathway reports. So it's the strategy of how the ESB will move from being historically most of the energy being generated thermally with coal and oil, and moving moving from there to renewable technology such as wind, onshore and offshore winds, hydro, solar. So it's a very interesting time now to be in the ESV. And yeah, that's everything for me. Thanks very much. Thanks for listening.